Hello, 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 my salon friends. Phil Jackson here, your queen of salons, in a little podcast takeover, my darlings, for the Salonpreneur Magazine podcast, because we're interviewing, of course, today our wonderful chief of staff, chief editor, chief of everything, the wonderful Sue Davies. How are you doing, darling?
I'm fine. Thank you for such a lovely introduction.
Well,
Speaking of everything, I was thinking about this yesterday, actually, thinking like about all this CEO mentality, and I was like, I'm actually a CEO. I don't know. I don't know if I like this
um,
CEO.
I think
Chief.
I think you're sort of everything, really, aren't you? 'Cause
I am. I was trying to explain to somebody this morning what I do, and the list is just so long that she
Mm.
got really bored after the first five jobs that I do.
Wonderful. When people start glazing over and switching off. Anyway, we're not going to do that today. We're going to
No,
have a wonderful conversation about your article in this issue of Salonpreneur Magazine. Can we
oh
see that?
yes,
There we go.
yes. Oh, look,
And over on page 95,
yes,
we're talking about, well, the headline is How Bright Does Your Business Shine?
yes,
And essentially, it's a bit of an antidote, isn't it, to
yeah,
that kind of that instinct that we all have, especially at the beginning of the year when we just want to overhaul everything.
yeah.
And you've put together a wonderful framework for helping people just clarify how they show up and how they're perceived, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's part of a bigger framework, and the next couple of issues are going to go over the next two parts of it. But Bright
Hmm.
is it's about that whole, like literally how you get found and how people spot you and recognize you, and how your identity resounds with them, and whether it does resound with them, and also just sort of about what it is that you really what you put out into the world, and it's sort of your face into the world. And
Hmm.
we do need to think about that. And it is like when this came out in January, obviously it's that time when we're all doing that reflection and trying to work out what we're going to do for the year, and we're all sitting
Mm.
doing our planning and trying to work out if we've got everything on point at the beginning of the year is a really good thing to do, I feel.
Hmm. But what I really like about it, and we'll dive into the Bright framework in a second. I mean, I love an acronym anyway.
Yeah, I do. I like an acronym.
So sometimes they can feel a bit shoehorned, but this one's lovely. But what I really like about it is that again and again you're kind of coming up with not chasing shiny stuff for the sake of it, and we're not chasing just the latest trends and all the rest of it. It's
Yeah.
about really quite timeless sort of foundations, isn't it?
Indeed. And I think, one of the things that I found when I had my business, and even now, I mean, I still serve clients now. And and I think it's really, really important for them to be able to very rapidly understand what it is that you do, how you
Mm.
can help them, and why they should be with you. And everything that I do within like my sort of client journey role that I work in is about that whole how you get found, how you get chosen, and how they treasure you.
Hmm.
And it is, and this is like the first part of their journey, is how, is the branding, it's about the recognition, about identity, about how you grow into that space, and yeah, just how you start that connection with people. And it is
Mm.
so important, and we really do need to understand as businesses that if you don't get this foundational stuff right, people aren't going to turn up at your door when you're standing there going hello on Facebook. They aren't going to see you, because if you're not consistent, and consistency is a massive part of it.
Mm. Yeah, and that's one of the big things that I've underlined twice actually. We're talking about coherence, aren't we? And we're talking about how we make sure that the branding and the services and the environment and the message are all in
Yeah.
alignment, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, do you want to motor through the Bright framework,
Oh,
or
go on then.
yeah, go on then. So,
Let me
so
just let me
Bright,
get my
Bright.
glasses on, get out of the
So,
reflection.
no, you know it all. So
I do,
Bright.
I do. But
So
yes,
Bright, we've got it stands for brand recognition, identity, growth, highlight, and trends.
yeah,
So point number one, brand, and that's
yeah.
kind of what we're communicating at first glance, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I think, we live in a world full of acrylic paint logos, with a nice fancy font on that you generally can't read.
Hmm.
Um, and I think, we need to sometimes, like, branding is about your individuality. To me, it's something where you want to stand out, and whether that means that you have like a vector, like an image behind it. You don't want to be the same as everybody else. And as much as,
Mm.
like, those lovely acrylic flows they're very pretty and they're very attractive, and I like a bit of acrylic paint, but it doesn't make you stand out. And that whole brand ethos, what I mean, like your color, you stand out wherever I see your image. I know it's you because there's always like a brilliant pink generally with it. I know you do have other colours too, but every time I see a bright pink circle or a bright pink square on my screen, I know that's Phil Jackson. And the same as like me up until now, like generally, if you've seen sort of like a mulberry and gold, most of my branding for everything for years has been mulberry and gold. And so people start recognizing that.
Yeah.
But if I just had pink and rose gold, which I also like, but there's an awful lot of it about, and you need to find, and if you are in that kind of pink and gold world, you need to find something that helps you stand out. And whether that is having an alternative image with that wording rather than an acrylic flow, because they're just everywhere. Or like the caricature, we had a phase, especially in now sector, of having caricature heads as logos. And just like those trends do not serve you because they don't help you stand out in a busy market. Branding is there to make you be instantly recognizable.
Yeah. Well, actually, we're drifting into point number two then, which is around recognition, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's not just about the logo; it's about everywhere that we're showing up, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you do, like, I know when I've done like my client experience audits and my salon inspector stuff over the years, you see people that have one brand and they haven't updated something. They might go on LinkedIn, but they might not have been on there for 3 years. But someone might be trying to find that service. And if it doesn't match up, if they then go to Facebook and it doesn't match up, or they go to your website and it doesn't match up, they're going to wonder if they've got the same people. And if any moments where you get people where people are finding they need to question what you're doing is an opportunity for them to walk away.
Yeah.
And so we need to make sure that they remain engaged at all points so that they know that anything they flow through in your world, they're going to be able to recognize you and go, oh yeah, that's Phil Jackson. He's got fuchsia pink. That's who he is. And I know that's him. Because you and I both suffer from having names that are overly common.
It's not the first time I've been called overly common, darling, I promise you.
But we both know we've had this conversation before, and like, for example, if we Google ourselves, I've got some Sue Davies, I can't even think who she's a writer in America or something, and I know you've got an American Phil Jackson as well.
Yeah, he's a basketball coach, and it does me some favors in that I get about 1,000 people landing on my website that they've got no intention of doing anything with me at all. I just happen to be Phil Jackson and show up in the search.
Yeah.
But that consistency, something though, is what builds the familiarity, isn't it?
It is, and I think when you if you have got a name like mine and Phil's, or even if you're like loving my friend Jane, she's Elisa, but she's Elisa Smith, and to have a name that does not stand out in a crowd. I'd much rather if I'd have kept my maiden name of Covington, my life would have been so much easier. But we have, we're given names, or we create brand names within our businesses. We have like Sue's Nails or whatever, and we don't stand out. So you've got to have something that stands out. That is, when people are searching for it, there aren't many of you around. That is the ideal.
Yeah.
So it's always good to pick a good business name that does that, so that helps with recognition. The color helps with recognition. Even the font can help with recognition. But then once they get to your premises, everything then matches up.
Well, that takes us nicely on to talking about the environment then, which is around identity, and this is where I think things get really interesting, and I think where a lot of salons go wrong. So it's about what we're expressing through how we present the business and the experience that we offer, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like, for example, when I had my salon, when we first opened, we went very vintage, retro, shabby chic. Everything was like an aubergine color and cream and gold, and everything in that business, even the music, was vintage retro. And for probably the first 6 months, we played virtually nothing beyond like 1960. But the salon was really themed, and everything was all sort of like Rococo and kind of that very shabby chicy look. I had like beautiful old antique French armoire. I spent so much time researching what I wanted in there, and it created an environment. Everything matched, and so clients knew. We traded on the fact that we were a vintage restaurant. I was going to say they're a vintage salon, and people knew that they were going to come into sort of like something that was a very relaxed, welcoming, soft environment. We weren't I didn't want to be like a white clinical salon, because although that it has its place, that isn't who I am.
Mm.
And everybody always felt like they walked into my front room and were coming to have a cup of tea in my lounge, kind of thing, was how people used to describe it. But
Mm.
that's what I wanted people to feel like. I wanted them to feel like they were in my home effectively, because I virtually lived there most of the time, as we do. Um, and I think that white clinical environment, or whether you're like the pink and rose gold, or whether you're sort of all green and earthy or whatever, you need that, all needs to follow in everything that you do. So
Yeah.
people understand, so much of that is led by the salon owner and what our mentality is and our psyche is. And I think if you want people to get to know your business, they need to get to know you a little bit too.
Yeah. Absolutely, but I just want to reinforce it's that alignment, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
what builds the
absolutely.
credibility.
Yeah,
And I think there's so many businesses that I'm aware of where what you see online is not what you get. And
no,
actually, what I've found, and I don't know if you'll agree, but what I found over the years is it doesn't even matter if the experiential side of things is better than you're portraying online. It's the mismatch that's the problem, isn't it?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, if what you present online is a 7 out of 10 and what you deliver is a 9 out of 10, you think that would be an amazing thing,
yeah,
but there's a mismatch between the marketing and the experience,
yeah.
and that causes a lot of problems for salons, I think.
And I think as well, sometimes as well, is that, if you put yourself out as like a really luxe end business, people that are searching for that kind of business are going to expect to pay high prices. They're going to, most often they're going to be expecting to pay high prices. They're going to be expecting a level of service. And if you're putting yourself out that as that, and then you only deliver like a 3-star service, or the other way around, people that are coming thinking that they're going to get, sort of like a £40 treatment, and they get there having stupidly not checked prices and so on, and
Mm.
then suddenly they're sort of, they're getting a bill for £60 because they're getting a service level that is far bigger than what you're putting out online.
Hmm.
It can, people can be surprised, and people need to feel comfortable from the moment. I mean, really, they need to feel comfortable from the moment they enter your world, whether that's your digital shop window or whether that's your real front door. They need to feel comfortable. And I
Mm.
know it's something that, we all know in this industry, is that for so many treatments, we have people walk through our door, and within 5 minutes, we were asking them to strip off and lay on a couch and have a treatment done with a pair of knickers on, sometimes with
Hmm.
nothing on, because they're having an intimate wax or whatever. And we need to make those people feel at ease. And if things don't align as they're coming through your client journey, then they aren't going to feel comfortable when they get to you and when you ask them to strip off and be on your couch.
Mm.
Or even to look at you, make eye contact in that mirror, if you're in hair. That's I think people forget, don't they, that we ask people to come into our world and be with us in a really intimate way. It's not often that we lock eyes with people in the way that hairdressers do. It's not often that we hold hands with someone for an hour in the way that a nail tech does, or that we show our genitals to a waxer.
Hmm.
We ask people to be intimate with us in a way that they don't do anywhere else. And if we can't make them have that feeling of comfort and trust very, very rapidly, and I think it is that alignment. It does come down to trust, because if we get it wrong on their journey to our front door, once they walk through, they're not going to trust what we say.
Yeah. Yeah, there's so much in there that we take for granted as well around
Yeah,
that intimacy and that level of trust, and it only really occurred to me because I'm doing, as you know, at the moment I'm doing some studying, and I'm doing my qualifications to become a therapist, which is, on the surface of it, a very intimate relationship as
yeah,
well. And one of the things I've had to get used to is being so far apart physically from the
mm,
people that I'm talking to, because what I'm
yeah,
so used to is being stood behind somebody's right shoulder while I'm cutting their hair.
yeah,
And then suddenly there's all this distance, and yet it is what is still a very intimate relationship, but we don't even
yeah.
think about those things anymore.
No, and I do think, I mean, I've been through therapy and been sat in that space with somebody who's been, yeah, administering therapy to me, and it is a really peculiar place. And
Mm.
like, and obviously with that, we're sharing our innermost thoughts and our innermost feelings.
Hmm.
But we know that everything we do within the salon sector and the wellness sector, we impact people that, and we may well even be supporting people that are going through counselling and talking therapies and stuff, because
Mm.
most often, we will refer people to it because of the things that they divulge to us. Once they're in our chairs or on our couches, they divulge so much to us, and we are unpaid and unrecognised counsellors without the qualification. And I think that,
Absolutely.
and maybe we all ought to just pair up with counsellors. It'd probably be a really good collaboration.
It's actually going to be really interesting. I'm about to start another piece of research, and my next piece is around what people would speak to a hairdresser or a beauty therapist about, what they would rather take to a therapist, and where that line is. I think it'd be really interesting
Yeah.
piece of research to just figure out where those boundaries are and whether people have those boundaries anymore.
Yeah. I
But
think
yeah,
some people, some
go on.
people do, don't they? I think some people just don't want to talk. But I mean, we know the amount of, the amount of secrets that we have shared with us. And yeah, just difficult situations that are shared with us. I'm actually just talking with someone who's going to come and write for us for July, around the way that we deal with our clients when there's grief involved and stuff. And it's a really interesting thing that we deal with our clients. So we're getting right off track here, aren't we? But it's an important part of what we do, and making sure that our clients feel comfortable is what this all enables. Is all of that the branding, the recognition, and all of that identity stuff is what helps people choose us. And then, as we know, if we get them beyond the choice and we get them to sit in our chairs or lay on our couches, then our hands can do the magic and do whatever it is that they need doing. And then hopefully they choose to come back and they choose to treasure us forever, is the idea, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Which takes us nicely onto the G of
Yeah.
bright.
Okay.
When we pivot away from the identity side of things a little
Yeah.
bit and start talking about growth,
Yeah.
and being really clear about what growth means.
Yeah. Because I think especially if you're in a bricks and mortar salon, growth tends to be very much like how big can we get? How many staff can we have? How many chairs can we have? How many couches? How many rooms? And I think if you take it back to the individual, yeah, we can always do more. We can always learn more. And I think that we do need to recognize that growth is so much more than how many people we can provide service to. It is about our internal growth. It's about our educational growth, our professional growth. And there's so much that surrounds it other than, can I do another treatment? Can I get another treatment room in? And then, growth encompasses so much in what we do professionally and as a business owner.
Absolutely. And I think I think we're kind of in alignment there, because I've always thought of the business is something that serves your personal goals, and your personal goals aren't always, I want more turnover.
No.
Quite often it's about, actually, I want more time, or I
Yeah.
want more space, or I want more energy, and it's kind
Yeah.
of building a business that supports that. And more turnover, more and more services isn't always the best way to serve those personal goals.
And quite often it's the road to burnout. And I was talking with someone this morning, who's just going through. She's going through an expansion, massive expansion, and I'm really really pleased for her, because she's done. I did some work with her a couple of years ago, and she's really gone from strength to strength. And seeing the expansion that she's doing, she was like, I just don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I'm like, well, when's the launch? And she went, next week. And I'm like, well, it's too late to worry about it now. The decision's made.
Yeah.
You're in there, and now you've got to make it work. And it's like, but she's taken her business in a slightly different direction. She's not adding treatments, which is really good. She's just going to expand her treatments in a different way, which is a really nice way to use the space that she's taking. But I do think, we spend so much time thinking about how can we make everything bigger. And in actual fact, you say sometimes it isn't about that. Sometimes it's just about going, actually, I'm really happy where I am. And actually leaving everything where it is means that I can grow as a person, or it means that I can help my kids grow into their adulthood, or whatever it is. I mean, I know at different points I had to disappear off and go and do university trips, like all that stuff with my kids. And I'd got my business to a place where I could walk away from it, and I could go off and do 8 university visits that year, because I'd built something that I could leave safely in the hands of my staff, to be able to do that. And that was where I wanted to be. At one point I thought I wanted a huge salon, and then when the opportunity came, it didn't work out. And it was the best thing ever that it didn't work out now, in retrospect. At the time it felt quite hard, but that enabled me to take time out, because I had a business that was manageable. And I think we have to recognize where growth comes from.
Yeah, for sure. I know in my own journey, I really, I managed salons of all different sizes, you know, from
Mm.
just you know myself and my business partner and a Saturday girl on the payroll, all the way up to, you know, 31 on the payroll and everything in between. And you do
Yeah,
learn what your sweet spot is in
yeah,
terms of not just profitability, but in terms of that work-life balance and keeping your
mm,
sanity and all the rest of it.
yeah,
The sweet spot for me was about 13.
yeah.
13, 14, that was fine. I could manage that without too much stress. It wasn't dominating my life. Above that, we might have been making more money, but it certainly wasn't making me happier. Definitely not.
And I think it's about contentment, isn't it? It's like my Fitbit keeps going off at the moment. It keeps going. I don't know what my physiology is doing because it keeps going. Do you feel okay? Tell me how you feel. It's like, do you feel stressed, calm, or content, or whatever? But the word content just keeps catching my eye on this list of how I could be feeling.
Mm,
And I think it's like, and I do hit it quite a lot nowadays. It's like it's either calm or content. I generally hit. So I don't know why it's going off. Obviously, my heart rate must be doing something weird. Um, I'm probably going to end up dead next week or something now. Who knows? Anyway, on the bright side. But but it's that feeling of contentment, isn't it? And it's that, you know, when you can go home without being stressed, when you can go home without being worried, when you can go back into work without being worried.
mm,
And I think it's finding that place of contentment where
mm.
where all the ducks line up and
Yeah.
you can take your pick.
Yeah. And also where you can kind of focus on, you know, the stuff that's serving you best,
Mm.
which is kind of what H of Bright is about, isn't it? It's
My
about
skin just
focus.
flows, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It's almost like I read the article ahead.
I know. It's almost like I wrote it.
So we're talking about highlight, which is kind of focusing on what attracts the right clients, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I think, you know, we spend a lot of time in this industry, and especially if you're a full service business. And I know, you know, there's all the arguments for niche down, only do brows or only, you know, only specialize in one thing. And I know we have an awful lot of that. And if that's what you've done, then fine, because you've got one thing to talk about, makes your life a lot easier.
Mm,
But for many businesses out there, they still are multi-service, sometimes full service businesses. But we know that within that sit an awful lot of treatments that we don't do that much of because
mm,
either we don't like them or our clients don't warm to them. But it's about looking at why they don't warm to them or why you don't like them or why you don't promote them.
yeah.
And the best services that we have and the busiest services that we have are generally the ones we love because they're the ones we talk about and they're the
Hmm.
ones that we are passionate about.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, the highlight thing, and especially like, you know, what I've written in the magazine this quarter is about looking at what it is that you really love doing
Hmm.
and build that, you know, and that does kind of lead into, I mean, I know you're a fan of niche. Um, but it kind of it feeds into that a little bit, but just make the most of what you've got. I mean, I know there was points in my business where we'd taken on treatments that we had fallen down the shiny trend thing a little bit,
Yeah.
um, and but they weren't serving us, and the clients weren't buying into them. And I think because then the clients weren't buying into them, you feel a bit less confident in doing them because you're not doing them regularly enough and
Yeah.
stuff. And they fall by the wayside. You've
Mm,
then got all the stock sat there that
hmm.
you're not using that's now going to go out of date.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the highlight thing is about making sure you're doing the things that you love and that the clients love. But, you know, and even if you have got all that stock that's about to go out of date because you've got something that isn't selling, turn it into an opportunity and highlight that so that you can offer, so you can get rid of the stock and then remove that treatment. You
Yeah.
know, make the most out of what you've got really is the highlighting thing. And I think just,
Mm.
and whether that's what you're passionate about, whether that's what your clients are passionate about, or whether that's that you need to clear something that hasn't worked, you know, spend the next 6 months making sure that you have got, again, it is just all of that alignment stuff and making sure, you know, these are our businesses. If we don't align with them, they're never going to align with our clients.
And I don't think the kind of generalist versus niche thing is necessarily a binary discussion anyway. I think there's a place for both. And what I try and explain when I'm coaching somebody who's full service is, yeah, by all means, offer everything because you don't want your clients to go elsewhere for other stuff. And some people feel that's the business strategy they're after. But I always encourage them to have two highlights, if you like.
Mm,
One is have one thing on your price card that you are noticeably more expensive for than everybody else
mm,
because it gives you confidence when you're pricing
yeah,
everything. And two, have one thing that you just do best. So if
Yeah.
you offer everything, be the one salon that everyone goes to. For me, in the on the hair side, it was color correction. So yeah,
Yeah.
we offered everything. But if you'd really ballsed it up at home, or if you'd gone on holiday and your hair had gone green in the pool or whatever, I was the guy that would fix that for you. So
Yeah.
yeah, we offered everything, but I still had that highlight, that niche in place
Yeah.
inside a full service salon. So I don't think it needs to be necessarily an either or discussion.
I think it's difficult now, isn't it? Because I mean, in my salon, we were very much a go-to for nails because
Hmm.
everybody that came, everyone that worked in my salon, we were all nail specialists. Was for me, that was probably my number one, and holistics and facials and stuff was next on my list. But my one of my sort of like my next one down from me, she was nails, but her next thing was waxing. And so we all had things that we were very passionate about doing.
Hmm.
And it does, and because that's what you are, you talk about it more. Those clients then warm to you because they feel confident in your services and all that. Because the psychology of it is it does come down to what you portray. People believe they'd buy into it, isn't it? That's what's happening.
For sure, for sure. Now, you mentioned a couple of times the shiny objects, which
Yeah,
gets us to the letter T, which is all about trends.
indeed.
So do you want to speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, I think really is. I mean, I have been a shiny object person. I'm not going to lie. I can stand up and own it. It's not and it's a really difficult thing because I think in our industry we are led by um not our magazine, because our magazine we don't talk about products and treatments in that way, but I think most of our mainstream trade press pushes us into that. They're always trying to, there's always advertisers in there trying to sell us the next best thing, and whether that's in hair or whether it's in beauty, is like a new color range or a new skin range or a new laser or whatever it is. We all kind of get a bit suckered into the revenue projections that you see. I
Mm,
can remember when I first came into the industry, and I think they were called Sun FX spray tanning. It was spray tan was just starting, and they were like, "Oh yeah, and you can earn, you can do so many a day, and you can earn like £1,200 a week." And I can remember being quite taken by the marketing. Sadly,
mm,
I didn't buy into it because I didn't have the finance to do it at that time. But I think we see all these deals and we think that they're going to be our savior, and what we have to do is actually work out what serves us, and we need to do the work. We need to do the market research and all that stuff around it to make sure that we aren't just being suckered by the marketing. And it's very important to recognize when there's a real need in your business for something
hmm.
new, and when it's time to say no. And I know,
I
I mean, we've
think,
had it written about. I think we've already, just in the 3 issues we've had, I think we've had shiny object written about twice, maybe 3 times already, because it is a
mm,
massive problem for us.
yeah,
And we do, particularly in nails actually, because there's always a new glitter range, there's always a new polish range, and they're to a degree fairly small layout
hmm,
to get yet another 6 colors on your gel shelves or another 6 colors in your glitter collection that will last you for years, and you don't
mm,
really need them because you bought some similar colors 2 years ago that you still
hmm,
haven't used. But sadly the gel companies, all of them, the same with every company, they've all got to keep turning their stock and they've all got to keep selling more and more and more so they survive. And
yeah.
so yeah, we're on this conveyor belt of just like, come look at this now, and we don't have to buy it every time. If you've got
I
a
think
hundred gel colors sitting on your shelf now, I can guarantee you do not need to buy any more.
no, no, and I think that you actually highlighted something really, really important is that people are looking for a lot of these trends to save them.
Mm,
And I think actually, if you've got a really clear idea about what your business is about, and you've got a stable, growing business that's growing in a way that supports you and your personal goals, you don't have
mm.
that fear. You don't need saving.
No.
And I think the other fear that people have is being left behind,
Yeah.
which is absolute nonsense. And in my own salon, we made it. It was a strategy of ours that we would not be, which is bizarre actually, given the number of awards for innovation that we won over the years. We were never going to be first on anything, because
Yeah.
it's a really expensive, really risky way to run your
Yeah.
business. Because
Sit
you're
back
not
and watch.
only, you're not just following a trend, but you're also trying to convince your customers that there's a trend
Yeah.
there in the first place. That's hard
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
We would come second, absolutely. So, let someone else test the waters. Let someone else figure out whether there's actually something there or not. Then we'll come in.
Yeah, it is.
And
And if
it's
your clients start coming to your door saying, oh, I saw this advert, or I saw this on Facebook, or saw this online,
yeah,
do you do it?
yeah,
That's when you need to start considering it. But I mean,
absolutely.
I think, and partly with that, with the nail stuff, like when I was an educator, one of the big nail brands, it was really hard because I used to get an amazing discount. So it was a really easy buy-in. And
Hmm.
because I was an educator, I kind of did need to keep all of their stock in. So we always had the latest trends. But you could be guaranteed every winter collection would have a dark red, it'd
Hmm.
probably have a navy or a purple, it'd probably have a dark brown, it may have a green, depending on what year it was. But if you actually look back, and even if you go on Pantone website and you look at color trends over the
Hmm.
last 20 years. Every winter, every summer, you will get probably year on year or every other year, you're going to get the same colors flowing through.
Yeah.
And we used to have like on my color charts of nail polish, you could open it up and we would have probably something like 15 to 20 different reds that you could pick from,
Hmm.
ranging from orangey reds to pinky reds to bluey reds to really deep scarlets, whatever, and glittery reds and pearlescence. The choice is ridiculous.
Mm.
And clients then get choice struck and they don't know what to choose,
Yeah.
which then wastes time in your appointment, and you don't want that. Less choice, faster times, more profit.
Yeah. And what we used to do on the hair side was we would put our own collections together twice a
Yeah.
year. So we would look at the colours that were available to us all year round. And then the team would choose, they would choose maybe half a dozen colours that we were going to highlight for the next six
Yeah.
months. And that would be what we marketed. We certainly weren't buying into short-term collections and things like that. Otherwise, you're continually dusting stock that nobody wants anymore.
Yeah. And I think it is hard. And I mean, I'm sure, I think probably in hair there's an element of that, but I mean, hair color, it is fairly finite, isn't it? I suppose. I suppose the nuancing is not as much as it would be like in nail color, because like then you can pick up every Pantone and create a different one. Whereas with hair, is it that different? Is there that? I don't know. I'm not
I mean, that,
versed in
in some of the ranges, there's coming on for a couple of hundred colours. So
yeah,
there's a fair bit in there. But I think the
yeah,
technology is more about technique and technology in hair
yeah.
than it is
So
about
blending it.
the colour itself.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? But I think, but do bear in mind, if you are looking to buy new, just make sure you haven't got it already. Get
Definitely.
yourself.
And I think you highlighted it, it's when the clients start coming in asking for stuff
Yeah,
that's the time to have a look. So it's not when you've seen it online, it's when your clients have seen it
yeah,
online. That
yeah,
needs to be the bit of research that we're after. The other thing that I find a lot of salons doing is changing their business because one person asked for it.
yeah.
That's not enough.
No. And I think as well, there's a marketing thing that I know that many pharmaceutical companies are very guilty of, a thing called astroturfing. And they did it around the cervical cancer injections.
Hmm.
And I discovered it at that point because my daughter was one of the first ones to be offered it. And I did a lot of research, and there's this whole thing about astroturfing. And to a degree, we can use this to our advantage. And they started putting out an advertising campaign for for a cervical cancer injection. What I can't remember what the name of the campaign was now, but it was basically all these mums talking and going, oh yeah, did you know you can get this amazing injection, blah blah blah. And it fed back. They hadn't even spoken to the GPs about it at that point. But it started people going to practice nurses, which were the next ones on the thing, and they
Hmm.
started talking to the practice nurses, going, "Oh yeah, we think we're going to have this injection coming." So the practice nurses were there going, "Oh yeah, we think this is going to be coming. Yeah, talk to us about it now." Then it goes up to the GPs, and eventually the NHS buy the injection. Is the
Okay.
sum of it.
Hmm.
And so we can use that mentality a little bit. If we've seen the latest new device, we can start talking to our clients and saying, we've seen this. It looks really interesting, and have conversations with people that you think are going to be interested in it. If you've got clients that already use a similar thing, start asking them,
Yeah.
because it's no point in buying it and then trying to build the audience, is there? It's like you've got to know if your audience are going to want it, and
Absolutely.
literally start laying the ground.
You've literally got your market research sat in front of you.
Yeah, ask.
Which is a really enviable place to be. And my God, how much more interesting is a client's visit when you're talking to them about innovations that you've seen and services that you might want to bring in rather than just what they saw on telly last night.
but also it kind of brings us back to the beginning as well, though, Phil, because if you're sitting there talking to those clients about that, they feel valued because you're asking them for their opinion. And it just reinforces all of your identity and everything that they came to you and chose you for and keep coming back for. You're just reinforcing that for them and telling them how amazing you are, that you're considering taking on new things for them. And all of that, the psychology behind you asking your clients for their opinion will help keep them with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that feels like a nice place to start wrapping up. But one final question.
Oh, go on.
If you were in a position where you can only fix one of the elements of Bright, which one do you think has the potential to create the biggest impact?
Our recognition, getting found, being easy to spot, easy to choose. Yeah, hands down, every time.
Cool. Well, that feels like a good place to finish. I disagree, by the way. I thought it was going to be H. I thought it was all
did
about
you?
the highlight.
I did. I was like,
they're all awesome.
I did. I was wavering between the two. But I do think that you need people to be able to spot you first, and then you can do the highlighting after. In my mind, anyway.
Cool.
Or is it the highlight that gets them to recognise you?
No, we'll go with yours because it's in a nice logical order then, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, on that note, thank you so much for talking to us about your article today. Everybody needs to read it. There we are. It's on page 95 of Salonpreneur Magazine, our third issue.
Our third issue. Fourth one is about to, we're in build.
Superb.
I know, I'm excited. It's
cool. Well, until next quarter, my darlings. Take care.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.